Welcome to our star mesh body tutorial. In the previous video we got everything unpacked and brought into our inventory. In this video we are going to figure out how to put stuff on. Right now I'm not in star mesh body here, so we're going to change that. First though, I need to explain a few things here, because we have a lot of options to choose from. As I mentioned before, we have a layered body here, and in the BoM optimized we have a BoM body and a BoM no alpha cuts body. So you have three versions to choose from, and depending on which skins you plan to wear and what kind of clothing you want to wear, it's a little bit important that you choose the right body. Now, what's the difference? The body layered is the classical way of a mesh body. It's what we call onion layers, where you have a mesh body on, and then that mesh body has been copied 2 or 3 different times and layered on top of each other. The outer layers are usually invisible, alpha'd out, so you only see the skin. But if you are applying for example an omega makeup, it will go on one of those layers that are laying on top of the body. A way to illustrate it would be if we this is some random statue. So if, let's say this is your mesh body, then the layers are on top like this. And you can put, for example, on the inner layer, that's where your skin layer is. That's where your skin shows. But then you can have tattoos on the inner layer here, and then perhaps underwears on the next layer, and then perhaps clothing items on the outer layer. So, but as you can see, this turns quite complex quite soon, because you have the body not just once, but 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So it turns quite heavy for graphic cards and so on to work with. And that's why Second Life came up with Bakes on Mesh, BoM. And that's the body up here. That's called Body SB BoM 3.85, Bakes on Mesh. Bakes on Mesh works like the old classic avatars way before Mesh came to Second Life. Resident created Mesh, of course. The original Second Life avatar is also a mesh, but it's one layer, and then you could wear your system clothes on that mesh. And the way that worked was you put on a system clothes pair of pants, for example, and Second Life would bake that texture onto your avatar, so it turned out as one texture while you were wearing those pants. And that is exactly what's happening on the BoM activated mesh bodies now, where you can wear a system layer and it will bake to the skin layer on your avatar mesh body. That turns not as heavy on the system as the layered version here, because you only have one body that you're wearing and then one texture, which is bakes on mesh. So this one I'd prefer, but sometimes you have an applier with an amazing skin or an amazing set of underwear and you want to use it, then you need to use this body. There is another BoM here that's called no alpha cuts. Now, if you have a mesh body, you already know the system, where you have a HUD, and somewhere in that HUD you have a tab for alpha cuts, and it looks something like this. A mesh body with alpha cuts, you can go and you can click one of those little sections and that part will be hidden, and then you can click it again to unhide it. This is done by chopping up the body in a program outside of Second Life where the body is made. You chop it up into sections, and each section is a face. If you know what faces are, I can show you. If we have a cube here, a cube has a few different faces. You can select them if you go to your edit window and click select face, then you can select one at a time here. And if you want to, you can go here to the transparency and turn that face invisible. That's exactly the same that happens over here, but as you can see, it's been chopped up in quite a lot of faces, and that means this mesh body here needs to be a lot of different objects copied or linked together like two boxes, right? Link. So this is my very simple mesh body here with two different faces hidden at the moment, and I can show them again, of course, by clicking 0. That's the same principle here, but that means that the mesh body has to be cut up in many different little objects and cut up again in faces. Each object can have maximum 8 faces. So if you have the time and you're bored, you can count how many objects this body is. That of course is a little bit heavy on the system too. So Star Mesh offers a Base on Mesh no alpha cuts. If you're wearing this, then this tab won't work. But how do you hide parts of your body then? Well, you wear your system alphas like this one. This one is a full body hide. I mean, if you wear that, you disappear completely. Well, your system body disappears completely, but you can make an alpha layer that just hides half an arm, and if you wear that with this body, then half of this body's arm will be hidden. So that's how you make alpha cuts on the BoM no alpha cuts body. You do it with alpha layers. So that's the difference between the 3 different bodies, right? So one body for different purposes. I would choose to wear this one when we start putting stuff on. There's another thing we need to discuss here too, because the head comes in a few different versions too. There's the Star Baby and Star Pro, and that's just the shape of the lips that's a little different, so that's easy enough. But what about the HD and the EvoX here? Now that comes down to how textures are being placed on a mesh. The system avatar in Second Life has a specific map that determines how a texture is laid on that mesh, and I can show you. This is for the head. So this is the Second Life UV or Second Life UV map. If you're creating skins, you will need to make sure that the eyes are placed here, the mouth there, ears, and so on. Hair base goes here. Here are the eyes. They are a little bit above the center part of the texture. The mouth is just above it. Then we have ears down here on each side. The 2 islands over here are the back of the head that's been split down the middle and turned into 2 different islands. So if you have a hair base, it will mostly cover here. Then there's some inside of the mouth here and the old-fashioned eyelashes that nobody shows anymore. It's always hidden by an alpha layer. So that's the Second Life UVs, and that is what these 2 heads use. It's also, these 2 heads are made with the layers, so if you have an applier with makeups, that will work here. Now, a thing to note here about appliers, by the way, Star Mesh unfortunately is not working with Omega appliers. We are applying for it, but we are not hearing back from Omega, so I'm not sure what's going on. But just that you know, if you have makeups that are Omega appliers, they won't work here. You can, however, make your own appliers if you have a texture and make the applier for Star Mesh. Okay, so that was the Second Life UE. So what happens up here then, where we have the Lelutka EvoX heads? Well, they have a different map. So that's the Second Life. Here is the Lelutka EvoX. And as you can see, that's quite different from this one. First of all, here's the head. And then there's a different texture for the ears. So to get a Lelutka EvoX head, you need 2 textures to get the ears covered too. But also, you can see that this map is very different from this map. So if you are wearing a head that's mapped to this one, and then wearing an EvoX skin, you will have your eyes up here where this is the back of the head actually. So you will get the hair base covering here on your face. And the mouth is down here. But well, as you can see, things are not lining up. So you'll end up with a scary clown face with a mouth in your forehead. So that's the reason why it looks really weird if you get the combination here wrong. And again, if you have gray ears, that's because you don't have a texture on your ears, even though you have the face right. You will see example on this in a moment when we do this on the star mesh. Okay, but just to explain why things can go a little bit wonky if you are using Second Life mapped items with a EvoX texture, or the other way around. Okay, that was 2 concepts I needed to explain here before we start wearing anything. With that out of the way, let's end the video here, and next one we are going to put stuff on. See you there.